Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Angry Cast and No Man's Sky, the Road to Riches series. We are back at what I have called a very good base, and I have set this one up and slightly modified it now that I've got all my other bases set up. And we're going to talk about multiplying resources or getting hard to get resources through using a large refiner, or you can even do a medium refiner, but the large refiner has the 3 slots. The reason why we're doing this is because we have to have all of these farms set up in order to have all of the resources necessary to make 20 fusion igniters and 20 stasis devices. And we're talking somewhere on the on the level of, let's see here, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 65, almost 70 biodomes spread across the universe, because if we put them all in one place, it's going to cause a lot of problems with glitchiness and just lag and not showing up. We've talked about this in previous playthroughs. But just to give you an idea, we need, in order to do this, we need something around 8,000 cactus flesh and 8,000 fungal mold, or I'm sorry, no, 12,000 fungal mold, 8,000 frost crystals, 8,000 star bulbs, stuff like that. So sometimes it's not easy to go around like we did and grab all of those items with the hazmat gloves, but you can also get them through a refiner. I highly suggest going to the wiki, the No Man's Sky wiki, and looking up the recipes. But just to give you an idea, in order to plant these items, you can see here, you need 2 items to plant each one. You need gamma root and uranium for the gamma weed, fungal mold and ammonia, and you can kind of see where this is going. Frost crystal dioxide, the solar vines are selenium and phosphorus. Gut rot, the fascium and the mortite are the only 2 you don't need a secondary element with. But then cactus flesh and pyrite, star brambles or star bulb and paraffinium. So you can see that there's, there's a 2-to-1 ratio, 2 of the plant to 1 of the secondary resource to plant 1 item, and each biodome holds 16 of them. So you figure, okay, that's 8,000 gamma root, but then you also need 4,000 uranium to go with it. Now you can set up those bases that we have, where we have just mining operations for paraffinium and for ammonia and for uranium and for oxygen, which is another good one to have, and I'll tell you why. Pyrite and all these other ones that we have, we can pull the gases, we can pull the minerals, but to get the actual plants, you have to find them on the surface of the planet or grow them and reuse them. Now you can do that. You can grow them, wait for them to mature, collect them, and then add more, or you can, like I said, refine them. Oxygen will sometimes help you increase the item that you're making. So like, let's say we used to do this in the old days with cobalt. It's like cobalt was a resource that used to be worth a lot of money if you refined it and sold it. Cobalt makes ionized cobalt at 4,095, twice as much, 2-to-1 ratio. So 2 cobalt makes 1 ionized cobalt. So if we look at this from a standpoint of 100 cobalt makes, 100 cobalt makes 50 ionized cobalt, okay? But if you add in oxygen, you can take it to a 2-to-5 ratio. So now instead of getting half for the 100 will make 250. So it's a 2 to 5 ratio on that. The same thing but like I said, we used to just to make a lot of money, but you can't do that anymore. So now we can do the same methodology for other items. For instance, the frost crystal needed to make the frostwort. That turns into glass if you just leave that in and on its own. However, if you add in the secondary element, which is dioxide, you can make a 1-to-2 ratio of frost crystals. So for every 100 frost crystals, you can make 200 if you add in the same amount of dioxide. Same thing goes for the fungal mold with the ammonia, the gamma weed or the gamma root with the uranium, the phosphorus and the selenium, the paraffinium and the star bulbs, the pyrite and the echina cactus, or what we called it before, cactus flesh, I should say. Cactus flesh, a kind of cactus, which will, you need cactus flesh. So you can make the base element with the secondary element in a refiner and get more. But it also helps to know that you can also make the secondary element inside a refiner as well. So let's say we need to have paraffinium. Paraffinium is like this top element, and then it filters down into everything else. And again, I say go to the wiki because it explains it much better than I will. But if I have, say, those gases that we set up for sulfurine, radon, and nitrogen, if I add in sulfurine to the refiner, and it will make from a 3-to-1 ratio down to radon. But if I add in, say, ferrite dust, and I put 100 in ferrite, just to give you an idea how much the ratios are going to look at, a 1-to-1 ratio, it makes paraffinium. Okay, same thing goes with I think the pure ferrite as well. You can use pure ferrite as well to make 1-to-1 on the, oh no, actually, sorry, 1-to-2 on pure ferrite. And then what about magnetized ferrite? That's the third element, and we have a magnetized ferrite mining operation. So I'm collecting magnetized ferrite from that farm on that base on that other planet. And that makes a 1-to-3. So now for every 1 sulfurine and magnetized ferrite, I can get 3 paraffinium. Same thing goes for other elements as well. Let's say we need to have fungal, the ammonia. In order to make the ammonia, you can use dihydrogen. And again, it's kind of hard sometimes to tell what actual element will produce what other resource. But dihydrogen and nitrogen will make the ammonia, and it's called organic fusion. Sometimes it's called bond destabilizing, sometimes it's called organic fusion, burn plant life, stuff like that. You can do all that types of thing. Now, if you need more of those items, well, I can't really help you there, except to say that some items you can put in oxygen and it'll make something twice as big. But you kind of have to either play around or find look for it on the wiki. But like I said, sulfurine, radon, and the nitrogen will make other items, and then you can just refine your way down. You can multiply them that way. And so, like I said, in addition to setting up those bases that are extracting the gases for the elements for ammonia and phosphorus on all those bases, we also can use the refiners to create them as well. We have one more base now we got to set up, and that is for for fascium and mordite. So let's go do that next. Okay, we are on a base that I have called Uranium Prime for the reason that there is a mining operation that is digging up uranium from the ground, and it's thankfully it is using electromagnetic generators, because I have a hotspot down there. Now I've got about 5, I think, or 6 down there. Hello, we're getting cooked rather nicely, nice burnt crisp. There's about, like I said, there's about 6 of them down there, and we're storing about 45,000, or well, actually 90,000 in the batteries, but we're only using 85 of 1,283, so we've got plenty of power to go around, and we're going to need it because I said that these bases and the biodomes will take probably a good portion of that available energy being pumped out by there. It's good to have 3 or 4 at least. Keep it up over 1,000, especially for these, because while every other base has about 10 or 15 depending on the resource, mordite and fascium are like the lowest resources needed, and they also take the least amount to plant. So you only need 1.5 biodomes of mordite and 2.5 biodomes of fascium. So that means 4 biodomes altogether. Now, we have created most of these in a grid pattern using straight walkways between straight walkways from the main building to the first biodome, and then straight walkways out, and then we make about 10 of them. Now, it's not that great because you have to run around in circles and do all that stuff. But speaking of circles, we have unlocked the curved corridor, which is 75 purite to have. You don't even have to have glass. That's the great thing about it. And I think for this one, because there's not that much needed. Whoops, something flying past the damn animals flying past here. There, yeah, he's up there. Holy crap. Hey, you. Where are you going? We're going to actually put this in here. So let's put a glass roof corridor off the end. I don't have any glass, but I do actually want to show you that I'm starting out. I put up the square building for the first part of the base, a storage container so I can grab everything out of here that I need. And it doesn't look like I have a lot of glass left, so let's grab, let's see here. Oh, I have it all in my ship because I ran out of space in my suit. So let's grab all that frost crystal that we have and build ourselves some glass for this. See, we need 4, that's 5, 20. We need 20, so 4, yeah, 20, and then we'll do 21. That'll make sure we have it. So I always start off this way. I keep on a square building. That's where I start off with. I put the teleporter in the corner, and then it's always nice to have for, like I said, where you do the refining in order to get more resources. I stick a large refiner, at least one, in the corner. That allows me to do some refining on the fly. And of course I have the one on my back as well. Let's get in there really good. Let's not be too anal retentive, but let's be somewhat. Let's have some standards. Alright, there we go. So yeah, in order to make, like, if you don't have a lot of fascium, you can collect it. There's certain worlds that has it as a resource. You can dig it up. But if you don't have it, you can also refine it. And mordite as well. We obviously have enough just sitting around. But in case we ever needed it, we can always make more. So in the refiner, we can always put fascium in. You get 3 to 2 output of mordite. Now, if you don't have a lot of fascium, but you can make the mordite, I'll tell you something here. Mordite makes fascium at a 3 to 1 ratio, whereas you take 2 to 3 on the other. But again, if you add in oxygen, well, maybe not. If you add in other items, you can increase the yield on some of your products. So in this case, the fascium, we can do a 1 to 3. So for every 1, we get 3 back. So for 100, we get 300 back. And then you can just turn that into the mordite you need. So make all the fascium you need, and then turn it into half of it into mordite. Like I said, that's the easiest way to multiply resources that way. So let's go ahead and build this sucker out and put it in. So let's get our right there, and then let's do the rest from outside so we can see what's happening. And I'm actually going to do this one a different one. Since I don't have that many that I need, I'm going to do one off of there, and then I'm going to do a round robin, because like I said, you can spend a lot of time running where you're finding yourself, did I go into this room? Did I collect this item? Do I have to run back there? It takes forever to run around. However, we can just simply create a circular pattern. Oh, I really hate this. I still have not figured out base the way I wanted it to. Yeah. There we go. Much better. Alright. I think we got it. So now we have our base, go into our biodome, go through here. We can just collect from the middle. And this is what I'm talking about as far as it's not a great setup to have to do it with just by, you know, lay out 10 and connect them with a grid pattern. Because you still have to run into each room and hit the Harvest All Plants button in the middle. But if you do this, you can just hit it in the middle as you go by. If you have to put them in a grid pattern, you have to turn and left and go different ways. And then it becomes problematic. But yeah, so let's go ahead. So we've got 4, right? We need 2.5 for the fascium, 1.5 for the mordite. So we need 1.5 for mordite. So let's set up the mordite. And we just plop it in. Oh God. Boom, boom. There's an entire one for mordite. Let's do half of one here. This is so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then we switch over to fascium, which is the gut rot flower, and then we're going to do the rest of these with gut rot. Just stand in the center, spin it around. So we had a half of one, we had a full one, and this is our last. And this is the last thing we have to plant. And there you go. And now we're back at the beginning. Okay, so that's all we need to do. Now, the last step of everything that we need is that we need to have condensed carbon and ionized cobalt at the ready. And that we cannot dig up. We cannot grow. We can mine it from the surface of the planet through different minerals, different flora to get that. However, we talked about having at least one base where you have oxygen set up. So we have oxygen. I have 2 oxygen bases. Very good base has oxygen set up, and this one has oxygen Starball Prime. That also has an oxygen mining, like the gas extraction from the ground. With that, you can have just a little bit of carbon. You have a little bit of carbon. 1 carbon will make well, you need 2 carbon to make 1 condensed carbon. However, if you add in oxygen, you then get 2 to 5. So 100 will make 250. That's great. Also, think of it this way in terms of this. If you have condensed carbon and you put that into a refiner, you get double. So for 1 carbon, condensed carbon, you get 2 regular carbon because it splits it. It releases the carbon. That's what's the requested operation. But you add oxygen to the mix, and now you get 1 to 6. So 1 becomes 600, or 6. So 100 becomes 600. So we were doing 100 carbon to make 250 condensed carbon. We can then take that condensed carbon and make it into 600. Now we've got 500 more carbon that we started off with. So I suggest getting 2 oxygen farms set up so that you can do this operation in order to make as much condensed carbon or carbon that you need just by using it with, you oxygenate it, it creates, double the amount. Well, actually more, 1 to 6, the amount. Same thing goes with, like we said, with cobalt. The cobalt itself, if you put in 100 cobalt and oxygen, you know, you get 50 ionized cobalt. If you add oxygen to that, you get 2 to 5, so you get 250 out of 100. But if you have ionized cobalt already, which you can buy readily pretty much at every space station or, you know, traveler you meet along the way, if you have 100 ionized cobalt, you get back 200. It's a 1 to 2. We're deionizing the mineral, making it back to its base component. But if we add oxygen to that, it's the same situation. You get 1 to 6. So buy all the ionized cobalt you need, throw it into a large or medium or large refiner with oxygen, get that double back, and then all you need to do to make 20 fusion igniters and 20 stasis devices is 12,000 condensed carbon and 1,000 ionized cobalt. Did I say that right? I think I felt like I did that wrong. Stasis device requires 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300. 300. So that's 6,000 to do 20. And then for the fusion igniter, we figured 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300. So yeah, 12,000 condensed carbon. So you're going to need to get 12,000 divided by 6. It's going to be what? 2,000, correct? So always have at least 2,000 carbon and 2,000 condensed carbon and 2,000 oxygen, and you can make the 12,000 you need to make that. So that's it. That's all we have to set up. We are ready to do this. We are ready to go through, gather up all the resources, put them all together, and we will have 20 fusion igniters and 20 stasis devices, and that is awesome. So there you go. With the road to riches, we are there. We're at the last leg of the journey. We'll do that next time. Talk to you later. Have a good one.